Hey everyone, welcome back. This is another episode of the Innovator's Mindset podcast. And I want to talk about a picture I saw on Instagram, and it had a saying on it. And I'm not going to share the account that posted it because it's like a random saying that I've not only seen shared on social media, but I've actually seen it said in some keynotes delivered by people in education. And it just kind of has rubbed me the wrong way. And I want to kind of reframe it. And I'll tell you, this is something that's really important to me. I don't think anyone that's saying this is a bad person or, thinks badly of other people. But I just think there's some context to this that I think is really, really important. And I'll show you the post here. And it simply says this: sit with winners. The conversation is different. And it just irks me that when I saw that and people praising this as well. And I get it. And I'll give you maybe this is what's meant by it, but I just don't get that feeling. Is I really truly believe you are who you surround yourself with. That, I'm looking for people that really push themselves, that are open to learning, feedback, challenge themselves, wanting to continuously grow. That's something that really matters to me. But where I really struggle, and maybe this is the wrong terminology, social climbers. The person that is constantly looking for the winner, for lack of a better term, to jump over and to do this. And it's kind of like I remember in a movie, it's that person at the party who's looking for someone else to have a conversation with because you're not that important. And I hate feeling that way, and I would never want people to feel that way as well. And I'll tell you, like my parents were, immigrants to Canada. They worked really hard. They had really kind of worked themselves up to owning a restaurant. And I don't know if, people look at them as successful, because what is really success? And I think that's a really important thing. A lot of people deem success as someone who has a lot of money, has achieved a lot of things, but that's something that I think is a really good conversation to have. Is success is so different to so many different people. And what you might deem as successful, it is, you might be the most successful person because you measure success in a totally different way that I do. And that's totally okay. I think it's, like I said, it's work ethic, how you treat people. That really matters to me. And so if you think about this, if we said this to kids, sit with winners, the conversation is different. So is this the popular kids in school and we don't pay attention to the kids who are not as popular? It's just, there's something wrong with this. And maybe it's just the way I was brought up. And I was really taught, you treat everyone the same as long as they're good, like good people, they're kind to you. And they're respectful. I think that's a really important thing. I don't really care about your job. I don't care about how successful you are. And one of the best compliments, maybe it wasn't a compliment, but maybe it was just something that was said to me, but I took it as a compliment. I remember probably I think it was my first or second year teaching. I also coached high school basketball, and I'm at the high school gym one time, and there's intramurals going on. And there's the one coach of the senior women's team, and her and I are talking, and I just, I kind of joke with people, right? I like bug them, and that's just my way. It's my way of showing you appreciate you. I don't have I bullied people before? 100%. I've been, said nasty things in my life. And you probably have too, by the way. And if I said I did, and I'd be lying to you. There's things in my life that I really regret and wish I could be better. But when I'm talking about how I, in this situation, I just kind of like razz people. It's my way of showing affection and appreciation for people. And I'm talking to the coach of the senior women's team, and I'm, her and I kind of go back and forth. We're joking around. And then I start talking to one of the players on the team, same thing. And one of my players said this to me, and he kind of looked at me and said, "It's really interesting. You treat everyone the same." I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" He goes, "Whether it's a superintendent, a student, a teacher, you don't care. You joke around with everybody, and it's just interesting that's how you are." And I said, "Yeah, as long as people are nice, I'm gonna treat them the same." And, that's something that matters to me. And kind of just publishing a book, and hoping to ask people for endorsements, people to reach out to. there's kind of a crappy feeling that when you reach out to somebody and they don't want to talk to you, and it's not that they don't want to talk to you, but it's like you're not good enough for them to give a reply. And even I'll tell you, and maybe I shouldn't say this. There is an author who I really look up to, and I just have great respect for. He's really impacted a lot of my thinking over the years. And I reached out to him, and he didn't endorse my book, but he replied to me, and he just made me feel appreciated. And it was like interesting because I know it was him. I could just tell it wasn't someone from his team or like that. And even in the no, it made me feel appreciated that he would take the time to respond back. And, you know, I get asked for endorsements for books, and I get a lot of them. And one of the things that I typically say is, listen, I actually don't endorse books because it's really important for me to read it. And I'm not the best reader, and I want to make sure that I read every single, thing in that book because I'm putting my name to it. But here's what I'd offer you, because I do want to help people no matter where they are in their journey. Why don't you come on my podcast, and then we can talk about your book, you can share it. And I think that's actually more helpful than putting my name on your book, that we can talk about it and share it that way. And so I think it's sometimes I'm not talking about like, hey, do whatever someone asks you, no matter where they are. You have to like prioritize your time, but just treating, even in a no, treating something with respect. And that author who I looked up to, even in the no, made me feel really, really good. And I think that matters to me. And like I said, sit with the winners. The conversation is different. Just irks me, this statement. But let's talk about, and maybe let's think of it in a different way. So who are the winners? And maybe that's where I'm getting caught up with this. To me, I really appreciate, I don't carry a job. I just like people that, do their best at whatever they do. Doesn't matter your job, doesn't matter your position, doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a company, it doesn't matter if you're a first year teacher. I'll give you another example. Hey, if you haven't taught 10 years, I don't want to hear from you. And it's like, what? Why would you say that? Because there's people who come into the profession who might have really great ideas and maybe a perspective that we don't ever want to hear. And I think a lot of times we are so ingrained into a school system that we might not look at things in a different way, as opposed to someone coming in different. Even speakers. I look at any speaker, I don't care what you've done. I'm looking for ideas. I've been keynoting events probably for the last 15 years. And I always go watch speakers because I know that I can learn so much from them. And I think that really matters to me. And I was thinking about this because our kids are always watching us. And when I moved to Orlando, one of the things that a friend of mine said to me, and I know him from here, and it was really, I just saw him connecting. I just had moved here, and he said, I go, how do you know all these people? Because he just, no matter where we went, he seemed to know everybody. And he said to me, I'll never forget, he said, I made it my business to know as many people as possible. I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go out of my way and talk to everybody I can. I'm just going to talk to that. And that's like a little, I think there's a difference between talking to strangers and, treating people kindly, but you can do both, right? And so I spend a lot of my time going to Orlando Magic games for fun. That is like my outlet. It's like, I don't really spend my time doing a bunch of fun things. I'm maybe not as adventurous as the next person. I love basketball. I love watching games. And I take my daughter, Kalia, to these games. And one of the things that she sees in me is that, we go have something to eat. We see, the people that take your tickets. And I've met the president of the team. I've actually met players. I've met coaches. And I go back to that conversation with my with the student on my team when I play basketball. You would not know, based on how I treat somebody, that's what I'm really proud of, what they do. You have no clue. And one of the things that there is a custodian at the Magic games, and he will always come around. I see him every game because he's in the area that we are, and I would give him a fist bump every time, fist bump, and we just like talking the game. And there's a gentleman named Ron who works for the Magic. He takes tickets. Talk to him every time, and my daughter would see this. And it was interesting because every time the gentleman walked by us to give me a fist bump, my daughter started doing it. And now him and I don't fist bump because he doesn't care about me, because he always does my daughter. And when she doesn't come to a game, what's the first thing he does? He asks where she is. He asks, where she is. And she makes him feel, and I can just tell, I'm making an assumption here. She makes him feel really special. And he makes her feel really special. And she doesn't care about what his job is. She doesn't care about anything. She cares about how kind he is, how he goes out of her way to acknowledge her, things like that. So maybe it's, when we say sit with winners, the conversation is different. We have to redefine who the winners are, right? Because someone who has worked their butt off and maybe not made as much money as someone else, but is really kind to people, goes out of their way to connect with people, to me is a winner, right? Someone who maybe was given every opportunity and never actually worked hard, but maybe was granted it for whatever reason, and is rude to people and just expects things just because, not necessarily a winner. And some people would see it as that would be a winner because of money, things like that. Really, how you treat people matters more than anything. So when I see that statement, it kind of made me feel uncomfortable, and I wanted to challenge it a little bit. And I think it's a really good conversation to have with students. What makes us a winner? Really, what makes us a winner? And I'm just riffing here. A conversation that I remember saying to my teams every single year is that, being in Canada, only one team this whole year can win provincial championships, right? The equivalent of state championships in the US. Only one team can win it. So if we define success by winning the provincial championship alone, that actually pretty much ensures we will most likely fail. Now, we can still have that goal. I think that's something to aspire toward. But really, I really want to teach you work ethic, how we connect with each other as a team. Because to me, even through losing at the end, you learn something that hopefully you will carry on throughout your life. To me, we never won that provincial championship, but I hope that I developed that in the players is like really work ethic, treating people, how respectful you were. Because that's a thing that will last with you forever, and I think it will get you really far in life. So the next time you hear that statement, just think about it differently, because I know you'll hear it somewhere. Some keynote will probably say it to you. You might see it pop up on social media. And again, I don't think anyone's saying it in a negative way, but I do think it can have a negative connotation if we don't really kind of dissect what it actually means. Because really, how you treat people, your effort level, your willingness to learn, that to me makes you a learner. That makes you a winner. So I just want to share that. I know it's a really short podcast. I just saw it. I wanted to get on here and talk about it. But thank you so much for all that you do. And, as much as I say those standards of like what makes a winner, I can tell you that I haven't lived up to them my entire life, but I am trying to get better. And I think hopefully that is growth is so crucial that we can say, like, and I talked about this in Forward Together, confidence is knowing that you basically, have screwed up in the past, but a pride in that you're getting better and that you're willing to continuously grow. So I think that confidence really matters, and hopefully you instill that. And that to me is what a winner actually is. But thanks for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.